Everybody, welcome back. Everybody, welcome into another episode of Talking Wrestling. I am Phillip Jordan, your host, in studio host and producer. Nothing was football on 96.9 The Legend, and I covered the Auburn Tigers for the Auburn Wire at USA Today, and just a big wrestling fan. On this episode of podcast, we are going to be previewing SummerSlam, getting our thoughts on some of those. Joining me will be Blake Lovell from the Wrestling Reaction YouTube channel and podcast, and also you can check them out over on SI Wrestling. Before we jump into that with Blake, let you guys know you can find me in the podcast. Find me on social media at PJordanSEC. That handle will be changing soon. You also check out the podcast over at my YouTube channel, Phillip Jordan Sports. And coming very soon, the podcast will be available on podcast form, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to email me, hit me up at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. Everybody, as promised in the prelude, I'm joined by Blake Lovell. We are not talking about Alabama's basketball depth chart and all the other stuff, but we are talking wrestling with Blake. We've teased this on the last several, I think, appearances for Blake on the regular podcast. But you can check his YouTube channel out, Wrestling Reaction, also a podcast, and read stuff over at SI Wrestling. And Blake, I've been looking forward to this, having you on to preview SummerSlam, and I appreciate it.
You got it, Philip. Yeah, again, everybody knows, like, if you follow my other stuff, like, I always drop the wrestling lines in somewhere, but it's like I just don't promote my wrestling stuff very much because I'm like, yeah, I like to have fun with it and all this, but like we were talking before, like I'd rather just hit record and talk wrestling for an hour than probably anything else. So yeah, this is always a fun time, and what an occasion with the first ever 2-night SummerSlam. Can't get enough of it.
I know, right? I wanted to jump off before we got into SummerSlam because, and I know I saw what you retweeted from your at Russell Blake account, WWE Unreal over on Netflix. I've only made it through one episode. I made it through the first episode. What's been your overall take on that? Because it's kind of like I'm mixed on it because I'm like, it's kind of cool to know this stuff, but wrestling different than other show business. You still want to have that kind of feeling that that blindfold, but you're pulling it back with WWE Unreal. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I've only watched the part of episode 4 because yeah, I did get kind of a heads up that WWE and NFL Films and Omaha Productions, all the people involved in this, were going to use one of my clips from when I was talking about The Rock and Cody and the Souls and all this other stuff. So that was kind of surreal to see and hear that clip in there when The Rock's kind of doing his thing, walking out of the ring and all that. But I mean, I will watch it, and I think I'll watch it knowing that everything in it is probably not real. Like, it's one of those, like, it's pushed as reality and it's pushed as all the behind the scenes stuff, but I probably know that there's going to be some stuff in there that simply is not just your impromptu discussion. It's going to be, hey, we're doing this for the show, right? And so there's a big difference there. And so I like this kind of stuff because, again, like if you check out the channel that I do, like this is the stuff I talk about. Like I'd rather talk about this than, I don't give me all that kind of stuff versus, man, was that a 8-star match or whatever? I don't care. Like I just want to know, am I interested in the story? Am I interested in the character? And that's really for me like the whole basic concept of why I got into this in the first place, right? And the timing, of course, with Hogan last week and everything like that, that brought back a lot of those kind of memories. I'm like, it was never a matter of the whole thing of, hey, man, I love this guy because he had all these cool moves, right? No, it was just the emotion, the atmosphere, all that kind of stuff. And so I think this is something I will get into just because I'm fascinated by this. But I also know that, boy, it's a different era, and this is the kind of stuff that will not be for everyone. I'm sure a lot of like 80s wrestling fans will be like, what am I watching here? Jim Cornette will probably not be happy about it. Like all these people like that are very old school, but I don't have a problem with it. I understand why they're doing it, and I think it's kind of cool just to see some of the stuff like that.
As somebody that checks out the experience, you mentioned it. I will be interested to see what Mr. Cornette and Brian Last have to say about WWE Unreal. So that YouTube of his is going to probably be a big deal. you mentioned 2 night SummerSlam, and I got to think about this. It feels like SummerSlam just kind of jumped up on us in a way because we just had Saturday night's main event, which they, to a degree, they treat like a PLE. I mean, it's just as many commercials as you'd see on a regular PLE.
Mm-hmm.
But and then we'll jump into the event. Do they have too many? Obviously SummerSlam is one of the main ones. You're gonna have that, but just the other ones in the Saturday night's main event, because some of this feels like it's been brewing for a while, and then some of the other matches kind of feel like, okay, it's been 2 weeks build, now let's go.
Yeah, and I think, to me, and this is where we were also talking about like the difference in the 2 nights. I think you have in some combination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically 6 rematch type matches. And what I mean by that is it may not be the actual match. So like we've seen Sammy and Karrion Kross, we've seen Cena and Cody, we've seen Becky and Lyra, Jacob and Solo, and then you've got, okay, we've seen Rhea and Io in a triple threat match. Like, okay, you add Naomi to the mix. It was kind of the same thing at Evolution, right? Once she joined in there. We've seen Charlotte and Alexa in a tag team match against Raquel and Roxanne. So it's like we've seen a lot of this before. And I think that's where, because the schedule being what it is, they were in a situation where it's like, how much can we actually do to build up to this second biggest show of the year in 3 weeks? And I just think it's like there can be too much of a good thing sometimes. And let's call it what it is too. WWE would not be in this position, scheduling wise, if they didn't feel forced to counter what AEW was doing that weekend.
I was about to bring that up.
So, I mean, It's kind of their own doing. If, even from their perspective, they're like, this is a little too much. They're kind of the ones that did it, right? So I'm not going to say I feel bad for them, because I don't, because they're making plenty of money from this, but it was something where, that's just the way they decided to set their schedule. And that's where, when you look at some of these matches, it's like CM Punk and Gunther. 3 weeks, that's it for a match like that probably could have been like a WrestleMania type match, and it's really, we've got 3 weeks, which is, I don't know if that's necessarily what we were expecting. I'm sure they'll have another one in the future. It's probably not going to be it, but still, I mean, it's a pretty quick turnaround. And like, it also, I think, hurts some of these, like the Naomi, Rhea, and Io match, because it's like, we just saw Naomi win the title 3 weeks ago. I kind of know she's probably not losing, right? And so I'd be shocked. And so I think that's it. It is one where I wrote an article today, I think, on the Takedown on SI. Like, it was Triple H talking about how and why they did this. He's like, well, the business is there, so why not take it? I mean, I agree. Like, I can't blame him for that, but I can't say that it's always going to be the most well-received thing. And I do think there's some pressure on him for this one, too, because WrestleMania 41 was not well-received outside of, I think, a couple matches. And so I think this is their chance to kind of have the do-over and see if they can get it right with SummerSlam.
And looking at night one, and just kind of, real quickly, if anybody checking us out doesn't know who's going on night one, of course, you got the Gunther and CM Punk match, and then you've got the Roman Reigns Jey Uso versus Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed with Heyman there, and then the Randy Orton Jelly Roll match with Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. I'm glad Drew finally got back over stateside, so he could be there. I wasn't ready for Miz and Logan Paul to kind of reunite there. Sami Zayn, Karrion Kross, the WWE Women's championship, and then of course the women's tag match. So I say all that, it feels like night one is going to have a cloud over it, Blake, and I think it is Seth Rollins really hurt, because it's just because every time you hear him, we've never really got confirmation what the injury is, and whenever Paul Heyman in character, he said he's going to be out for a long time. And then there was the rumors that's been all over the internet that they planned an injury angle with him in that LA Knight match. So what is your gut tell? Are we going to see Seth Rollins in night one at SummerSlam?
There are so many scenarios that have run through my mind, and I don't even know. It's an all-time record outside of like The Rock and the Bloodline last year. All-time record on my channel of number of videos I've done on a certain topic. No question, Seth Rollins and this whole injury thing. Like, it's just ridiculous how many times I've spent on trying to figure this thing out. I keep thinking the truth falls somewhere in the middle on this whole thing. And I thought that from the start, where it's like he could actually be hurt, but you can play it up in a way to where it's nowhere near as serious as you tell everyone. And that's kind of the whole misdirection. And what I think is continuing to happen now is that you're simply forgetting about it. And that's what they want. They want you to forget about it. Although people like us, we're not going to forget about it. It's all we're thinking about. But like for the casual fan, they've forgotten about this because why? He's not been front and center. He's barely been mentioned. But because he has been mentioned, I'm going to read into that 100% because Paul Heyman for the past however many weeks now has found a way in a span of like 5 seconds when he talks to say Seth Rollins will be out for an extended amount of time. Seth Rollins will be out for an extended amount of time. We know, Paul, we heard you the first time, but he's told us that like 3 or 4 times now. Clearly, we know why he's doing it. And so I started off with the thinking that I'm like, he's got to do something here. And I'm like, it just seems likely that he's going to cash in on Punk or Gunther, and he walks out with the championship. That was my initial prediction, I think, when I made my predictions on Tuesday or something. But since then, I have really changed my opinion on this whole thing because there is a way for Seth Rollins, I think, to accomplish multiple goals here, and that is to cash in successfully and prevent CM Punk from winning the title, which are his 2 main things. And it has been. That was like his mission statement after WrestleMania. And so my initial scenario I played out here, Phillip, was that I said, I know people are thinking there's no way Punk can beat Gunther this soon because Gunther just got the title back. But at the same time, I'm like, can you really have Punk lose another one of these matches?
Yeah.
And so my thought was, Punk maybe gets kind of that quick win out of nowhere, right? Rolls him up, gets the 3, something like that, shocks the world, shocks Gunther, doesn't know what to do. And so Punk becomes the champion after the referee counts the 3. But because Rollins has said he will never let Punk become champion. So to me, if you become champion by winning, that's fine. But you become champion by actually getting the belt in your hands. And so my thought is like, okay, Punk gets the quick win, maybe Gunther attacks him, Rollins cashes in or something, doesn't allow Punk to ever actually get his hands on the title. And so I'm like, that seems like a decent option. However, and I can hold off this other theory for night 2 because it is going to play into night 2. There is a way now, and I got to give my colleague Rick Cacino credit over at the Takedown on SI. He threw this scenario at me, and I was like, I think you're onto something. Where Rollins can cost Punk here. And maybe it's through Rollins just being there visibly on crutches to continually say, hey, I'm hurt. But he somehow that distraction costs Punk, right? And Gunther wins, retains the title, or maybe just sends Breakker and Reed out and they do it. And we see Rollins kind of watching from afar. With the crutches, he's injured. He can't possibly do anything else. So you've contained Rollins' entire group to night 1, because we're still going to talk about the tag team match, I'm sure. So they're all contained to night 1. Why is that? Because you don't want to be thinking about them on night 2. Mm-hmm. And I'll save my theory for that once we get to the main event for night 2.
Yeah, and with the... Okay, let's do with the World Heavyweight Championship match. Gunther versus CM Punk. We talked about like a 3-week build. And you're right. He just lost to Cena in the way he lost in that championship match. And then now with this, and Punk's been talking about lately, which is kind of weird. Okay, I'm going to say this just from a consistency standpoint. He told John Cena that he did not want to be the WWE champion because he did not like the guy that he is. Right. But now he is saying he came back to win the World Heavyweight Championship. That just threw in my mind as soon as he hit saying it to Gunther. I feel like this match, just the match in general, is going to be great between these two. I'm kind of interested in the Punk style versus the Gunther style because Gunther's very powerful, in Punk, how he's going to wrestle. But the best in the world thing too has been very, very big in this, and their war words and all that stuff. Just the match, and I think too with what you're talking about with Seth, if Gunther wins, you're kind of okay. Seth's not going to come out, but if Punk does win, Blake, we're going to be waiting for Burn It Down as soon as the 3 hits. So, but what kind of match do you think we're going to get for these two? That's the thing. I think it's going to be a great match. I think overall it could be the best match of night 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably a scenario where this will be one of the better matches of the weekend. I'd be surprised if it's not. And I do think it is, like you said, it's the best in the world type thing. Like, you can see definitely, like, Gunther sitting here just wearing him down, like, really trying to just dissect Punk the way he does everyone and all that. And that's why, like, it is one where I keep telling myself Punk can't lose another one of these. And I'm like, I've convinced myself if he doesn't lose, it can't, though, just be a clean win over him,
Yeah.
meaning like he went, it's your ultimate finish and he just goes out and win. I said, I think it has to be like a quick out of nowhere type thing because I don't know, and we know Triple H, right? He doesn't want to beat Gunther ever, like at any
No.
point. And so I can't imagine this is just going to be Punk in 3 weeks build going over and winning this match just clean as a whistle, and that's that. He can still win clean, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of that surprise type thing if it happens. And that's the thing. Like I am looking at this and just trying to say, I feel like Punk has to win a big match at some point.
Yeah.
Because if you really think about it, when's the last time he won a truly big match?
That's just Drew
Right?
McIntyre, really.
I mean, that's it. I mean, he lost to Rollins, in the triple threat at WrestleMania, the tag team match at Saturday Night's Main Event in May, lost to Breakker and Rollins. The triple threat qualifying match for Money in the Bank, El Grande gets the win in that one. He loses to Cena at Night of Champions. And I mean, other than just the gauntlet match to get in this spot, like he hasn't won a big match in forever. So I just am like, I think he has to win. And I know it's like so counterproductive to everything, but like, can you really beat this guy again? Because to me, you can beat him, but you need to beat him after he has triumphed, right? So after he has reached his goal, like you said, even if it's one that he said he didn't want, but I think that's where you take it all away from him then. I don't know. I'm just like, that's what confuses me here is like the Rollins thing. It has become so predictable that he has to somehow interfere in this match one way or the other that I'm like, it's probably not going to happen because it's too predictable. But if you don't do that, then what do you do? This match is, I don't know what's going to happen. So,
and it's had me wonder, just say if that happens, Punk wins the match and then Seth Rollins was never hurt and he cashes in on Punk. I just wonder, WWE long term, where do they see the Punk Rollins thing ending?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's the scenario to me, and you're thinking of this like, all right, let's say Rollins walks out with the title, Punk once again empty-handed here. It's not WrestleMania next year because I think that's reserved for Sami Zayn. I think they've already set that in motion to where maybe it's Rollins and Sami, maybe it's somebody else and Sami. I don't know, but I don't know where Punk goes from there, which is why when I really think about it, and I'm looking at options down the road, if you are looking at a WrestleMania type scenario next year, I'm like, if it's probably not Punk and Rollins, it's got to be Punk and Cody, doesn't it? Because I feel like you've got to get there. And so that to me could be like the shining moment for Punk next year. But you're also taking a risk on that, right? Like, that's another how many months away. And Punk's a guy with injury history and all this. And knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen. But like, I don't know. That's why I'm just thinking you could give him a win here, even if it's for 15 seconds. You kind of give him something because then, you're still going to get back to Rollins and Punk at some point. But I don't know. Like I will give them credit. They've twisted this one in a way where I don't have any idea what they're going to do, even though there seems to be a most predictable option ever. I just am not sold that's what they're going to do anymore. So,
speaking of Rollins, obviously with Roman Reigns, that was what we were all assuming we were going to see Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. But now we get Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed with Paul Heyman. I mean, it really looks. I've told people this. This is really Roman Reigns versus Paul Heyman, but Paul Heyman can't wrestle, so you got to throw these guys in there. I kind of was hoping for a singles match between Roman and Bron Breakker, but maybe that's something they just want to hold off on right now. Was that kind of something you were hoping for in this?
Yeah, so that was my thinking initially. I was like, maybe they're setting up the singles match, but then I thought no offense to Jey and Bronson Reed, but that didn't feel like a SummerSlam match just yet, even though Jey's just came off of being the world champion and Reed's been, in a pretty good spot. But the more you kind of saw the way we were setting up, I'm like, all right, this is the way they're going to go. But again, this is why this whole Rollins thing is bizarre to me, because they were absolutely leading us in the direction that it was going to be Reigns versus Rollins at SummerSlam.
Yes.
Everything that they were doing was telling us that, which again makes me think the truth lies in the middle, where because they didn't want to do that match because maybe Rollins was not all the way back yet, I think that kind of was a scenario where maybe we do call the audible here, and this is the way we get around it. And so, like you said, I think now you can probably find a way to save that for later, but I also think the one you're really building towards is Reigns and Breakker. And I think when it comes to this match, speaking of guys that haven't won a big match in a century, Roman Reigns has not won a match in a long time, a big match of this caliber, I feel like. And so I think he's going to win. I think, him and Jey are going to win this match, but I think the whole thought is that they're going to do it knowing that eventually you're going to get Breakker versus Reigns, and that's where you're going to get Breakker's sort of career-defining moment where he beats Roman Reigns. Because I could see Roman Reigns doing that on the way out or something, where it's like, hey, this guy's only wrestling 2 or 3 matches a year now. So that's one where if you invest in that, and that could be WrestleMania next year, who knows? But yeah, I think this is kind of a no-brainer where I'm like, Reigns and Jey are going to win here, but I think it's all with the fact that that you're going to get that back for Breakker in a singles capacity. It's a much bigger win than just a tag team win. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Bronson Reed is the one who takes the loss here. Protect Breakker, because also the way Breaker's been acting, and even how he acted the last Raw we saw with him and Rollins, that's something that's already, you can tell there's being little, things there where they're saying, okay, we're hinting at there's going to be some problems with these two.
See, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about that whole part of my plan. I actually like the idea that you go into this where Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker had no idea this was the plan for Seth Rollins. And I think that's the brilliant twist of this whole thing, is that they don't, Breakker's taken over as the leader on Monday and all this stuff. They don't know. And so WWE, you put any two people together, 5 seconds later, they're going to tease some tension between them. And so I'm like, they're already there with this group. And when Rollins comes back as the champion, I think it's going to only magnify it to where you're adding that tension in. So yes, I think there is something to that. I think the big reveal to me has to be that Breakker and Reed had no idea this was actually legit in terms of this plan that Heyman and Rollins were concocting here. And I think that's the best way to do it. So,
just looking at the rest of night one, what's another match that you're really excited about on that night?
Well,
okay, maybe intrigued a little bit,
No, I'm joking. So I think there is plenty of intrigue with whatever's going to happen with Zayn and Cross. Because I think that Cross has done everything but say that he's leaving WWE after this match. And so I'm just like, we know Sammy's going to win. I'd be stunned if he doesn't. But I'm at least intrigued by that idea with this whole stuff that he's sharing. And again, it seems like maybe it's a situation where they're just like, hey, we realize this guy is just not as much as the fans are into him. It's like an R-Truth situation where it's like, we just don't see that same upside. And so maybe this is a way to have a little bit more of a mutual, separation, I guess. Because with that video he put out, did not leave a lot of room for interpretation. I probably, and it's wild to say this, but of those remaining matches, and with all due respect to Jelly Roll, I think it's probably the women's tag team match, because I think Charlotte and Alexa has become one of my new favorite things, and I can't believe I would ever thought I could say that. But I'm glad they didn't do the sort of typical wrestling thing where, all right, we're teasing this whole thing between these two. They come out and have a couple matches, and then one of them turns on the other, because it just would have been way too obvious and too predictable. But I like what they're doing with them, and I think, talk about no-brainers, I think they have to win here. I don't think there's another option at all. I think you take the belts off of Raquel and Roxanne, you get them back maybe eventually when Liv's getting closer to returning, but I think Charlotte and Alexa have to win this match, and that's why I'm pretty intrigued. But I'm also intrigued by the crowd reaction to Charlotte. we weren't expecting them to do what they did at Evolution. And so I'm like, this crowd comes out and cheers her, and all of a sudden, it's a new era for Charlotte. I'm into that. So that's probably the one I would pick, which is not probably my expectation, because I'll just be honest, like Tiffany and Jade, to me,
I worry about that one, because
that one worries me a little bit. Yeah.
Because I feel like Tiffany is better as a heel. I just feel like she's better. Even her personality, just her character, it's a heel character. The fans got behind her. Hey, we've got to turn her. The fans turned her face.
Yeah.
With Jade, I just don't think she's ready to be the champion. And then the reaction she got, and I know it wasn't in the United States at when she won Queen of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
It was Blake. It was quiet. It really wasn't even a response. It wasn't a boo, wasn't a cheer. It was quiet, and that's worse than being booed. I feel like, though, she won the Queen of the Ring, they're going to put the belt on her, and I just don't know if that's the right decision. I think it would have been if Naomi hadn't cashed in, and then if she cashed in on Jade, then you have kind of like what we're talking about Punk and Rollins. But now, since that's out off the table, I kind of worry what the reaction is going to be if Jade does win.
I think they're setting this up to be hey, we're just going to give her the ball and see what happens. That's what it feels like to me, where it's like this, because we do have all these questions, this is her chance to prove us wrong, or maybe it doesn't work. And I feel like we're at that point now with her where I feel like they have to make that decision too. Because if it doesn't work, well, maybe we need to rethink these Bianca Belair WrestleMania matches or Rhea Ripley WrestleMania matches, like all these ones they've teased that that they can see as a WrestleMania type match. If this run doesn't work, then I think it's well, we just can't do that for those events. We have to look at a sort of a lower scale type scenario. But I think, to me, the winner coming out of this is Tiffany, because I think even in losing the title, she is the winner, because I think what you said, I think she gets to go back to being naturally what she should be. Because I think getting the title off of her, as always, it forces that person to change a little bit. And I think that's what's going to happen here. But I also, I'm telling you, the crowd, the crowd to me will be the story of this weekend, because I think this will be one where I would not be stunned at all if they are 100%, not 100%, 90% behind Tiffany and about 10% behind Jade. I would not be shocked at all with that. I just think it's going to be more of your smarter type crowd, right? Who does kind of maybe look at Jade and feel I don't know if she's there yet. So I'm more curious about the crowd reaction to this particular match, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and that's going to jump into Night 2 with the main event. But kind of looking, we kind of talked about this a little bit off air, and kind of at the start here, rematches, the Solo versus Jacob Fatu. Now, I kind of do like AJ Styles comedy work here lately with the whole him and Dom. Yeah. And I'll just say this: I feel like AJ's winning that one. I just got a gut that they're going to give AJ the IC title.
I feel like I've been alone on an island on this one, because this is the one that I've made my predictions in multiple places now that I think everyone has told me that I'm absolutely getting wrong, because I picked Styles too. And I know the thought is, well, they're way more into Dominic right now, and they see Dominic as the future star. But I'm I think there's way more value in taking the title off of Dominic right now for the story. I don't think you need Dominic as the Intercontinental Champion to be invested in Dominic, because the story to me is if he loses and Roxanne and Raquel lose, that's a great setup to have the fallen Dominic, the fallen Roxanne falling in love with each other, and then Liv comes back. Absolutely, to me, I think if one loses, which I think they're going to on night one, I think the other needs to lose too, because I think that fits the story. Because then you got, the little cocky Finn Balor back here saying, well, what happened to all you? You all lost your titles. We still have ours. I can totally see that playing out. I think Styles winning is way more effective, because it does give you that kind of story. You can get Roxanne and Dominic a little bit closer, the mutual kind of connection there. And it gives, I think, more fresh opponents to work with. Who's Dominic going to work with after this? Who is there that he hasn't already kind of been involved with, right? I mean, I really was trying to think of that, and I'm like, who are your options? He's already done the thing with Penta. He's already done the thing with Breakker. I mean, that's out the door. Kaiser's Americano now. Like, Gable is hurt. I'm like, who's there? I mean, there's probably someone I'm forgetting, but at the same time, I'm like, Sheamus? Dominic and Sheamus? I don't need to see that. But I'm like, Styles and Rusev. Styles and Sheamus. Styles and El Grande. Like, all these other people, I'm like, Styles and Balor. Like, that to me is way, way fresher. And so I'm all in on this one. I don't know if I'm going to be right, but I would much rather see Styles win this title here. So,
and then look, I'm a TNA guy. I was a big TNA fan. I just, I just became a complete, like, I don't know what the word you want to use when I saw the entrance he made at TNA at Slammiversary. So I'm hoping for an AJ win here. I've always been a big fan of AJ Styles. But I look at it too, the two women's matches, the triple threat, Naomi, Rhea, and Io, that I think that's just going to be a great match. That they're going to put on a great show. It'll probably be similar to what, just you're pulling Bianca, you put her in and replacing her with, Naomi and Bianca. You probably even swap them. But I think it's going to be on that level, that WrestleMania match. The Becky Lynch and Lyra match is interesting to me because of the no DQ last chance thing. And I have a gut feeling Bayley's turning heel on Sunday.
Yeah.
That she is going to make it where Lyra loses and Becky's going to keep that IC title. It feels like it would be too predictable for Lyra to just walk away, getting the belt back.
I know that's one that I've questioned a lot since because I did pick Lyra to win because my thinking was, well, this is what it was built for, right? Like everything you've done the past however many months, like it's built to put over the up and coming star. But at the same time, I'm like, the whole Bayley thing just sort of throws a wrinkle into this because Bayley clearly dejected. She wasn't on WrestleMania. She wasn't on, SummerSlam. So she's going to play a part here somewhere. But it's like, do you do like the 2-man power trip with Becky and Bayley as a possible team moving forward? I'd be into that. Like having those two kind of paired together. But I'm also like, I would much rather see Lyra as the heel coming out of this than anything else because I think at some point, and this is where we talk about crowd reaction, you're going to get it here. They're going to cheer Becky. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, think about where this is at. Like a defining moment like for her. And so I think it's going to happen. And so I'm just so fascinated with kind of the way this plays out here. Does Bayley turn and join Lyra? And they both turn, and Becky is the person who winds up in the back to being the cheered man and like all this. I could see that being a scenario. I will say this. So I don't really care about like betting odds and stuff when it comes to this kind of stuff. But someone did, and I had to look it up before we started. This is the match there's been the biggest movement on in terms of Lyra was a big favorite with the betting odds. Now it is basically 50-50. And so I think there's something to that of like the thought that, all right, something going on here with this whole Becky thing and maybe Bayley and maybe, again, you get the 2-woman power trip here. But I'm with you too. Like WWE's batting a high percentage when it comes to the triple threat matches this year. I mean, especially the women's matches. So even going beyond what we said with Punk and Gunther, I could see these being the 2 best matches of the weekend. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's these 2 women's matches on night 2 being the 2 best of the whole weekend.
So, we have one match that we have to discuss to close it out. That is the street fight for the undisputed WWE Championship. Like, let's just kind of just pull away from this match. I got why they called it that when there was only one world championship, but that's just, I think that's a discussion for another podcast, but they really should not be calling it the undisputed WWE Championship because technically it would be disputed because Gunther can say, hey, I'm the world champion. But anyways, and how do we know this match is legal? Because, I mean, John Cena was knocked out when that contract got signed. So we know this is coming out on Friday morning. So if anybody is checking this on Saturday, we recorded this before SmackDown. I just hope that gets brought up between John Cena and Cody Rhodes about the way the contract was signed. That's a big thing for me. Cena's got to say something about it.
Well, so the whole narrative here from everyone is this: we talk about double turns, right? This has
Yes.
been the buzzword.
Got it in my notes. Question mark. Double turn.
For the past however long now. Everybody's just waiting to see if this is it. And I said, I think one theory is that if this is the WrestleMania do-over, this is where you bring, if you're ever going to bring The Rock back into this, this is the only other place you can do it. Like, and so we saw all the criticism coming out of it. He wasn't there. Goes on Pat McAfee, tries to clean up the mess and all this other stuff. And of course, takes a few shots at Triple H in the process. I'm thinking it is eerily quiet when it comes to him. It's almost like we've forgotten that he is even part of this. Until they put out WWE Unreal the week of SummerSlam, where you have the biggest episode focused on The Rock, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes. Mm-hmm. Is that by accident? I'm not sure. So that's one theory, right? Another theory is the double turn sounds great, but I just cannot imagine that Cody Rhodes right now, WWE is in any position to want to put Cody in any spot where he's just getting booed. But here's the thing. He going to get booed here. Mm-hmm. He's going to get booed a lot. John Cena is going to be the overwhelming favorite with this crowd. Cody is going to get booed unlike anything before in WWE since he's returned. This is going to be on a different level. And so everything they've played up with Cody doing what he did to Kevin Owens earlier this year, because KO was right if you really think about it, because Cody took it to another level to Royal Rumble, but it was within the rules. He could do that. Fast forward to the Randy Orton match, Night of Champions. Orton hurts his back again early on. What does Cody do? He goes right after the back. And then it's the exposed turnbuckle that helps Cody win the match. Mm-hmm. And now it's a street fight where anything goes. So Cody Rhodes is going to be able to justify anything that he does to John Cena. And this is where I think, theory number 2 here, because we got one more after this. Cody could take this to a level where it's like, we feel sorry for John Cena. And I feel like that's what they have to get to, is it's not the full turn, but we do at some point feel sorry for John Cena here, because we realize like he is trying to hold on to this championship because he wants to retire as the last real champion and all this other stuff. But he just can't do it because he's going against QB1 here, right? He's going against Cody. And so that all that sets up to say that Cody's going to get his win back. But theory number 3 is that, like I said, they have contained Seth Rollins' entire group to potentially night 1 because they want us to know that they are going to not be a factor on night 2. They don't want us thinking about him on night 2. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate twist in this whole thing is not, is Rollins injured or is he not? It's, okay, if he's not injured, we know he's going after Punk. But the whole misdirection here, I think, is the fact that there would be nothing better in terms of the twist and the cash-in that could potentially top his last one than if he does all this on night 1 that we talked about a minute ago. And then on night 2, he cashes in on Cody to win the Undisputed Championship, because he said it after WrestleMania. And this is where Rick, again, reminded me of this in our predictions that we did for the Takedown on SI. He said that he was going to be the number 1, right? And everyone knows the number 1 is this championship. It's not the World Heavyweight Championship. Mm-hmm. And so if you want this to eclipse WrestleMania in terms of talked about buzz moments, there's only 2. That is, The Rock comes back here and you get the double turn, which I just am not thinking is going to happen, or Seth Rollins cashes in on Cody. And I think that's probably the most likely of the group here, because otherwise, what are they going to do that is going to top anything if there's no interference? How could you possibly do a Cody Cena match without any outside interference, and you feel like coming out of it, everyone's where they need to be? I just think it's too big of an opportunity, right, to not have someone else added into the story here, because you've got to get Cena back to the good side, and this is where I think the twist starts to happen for him. But I don't necessarily think you have to get Cody to the bad side to do that. I think you can tie Rollins in somehow, and you get everything where you need to be. So I know that was a lot, but I think those are the 3 most likely options, which means that option 4 is probably going to win out, and I don't know what that is. So,
yeah, and like we said, like Cody's not turning heel, but again, Cena's the favorite, but it's making the crowd even feel bad for John Cena, and that kind of just
Yeah.
flip him back to babyface John Cena, because you got to know he's not going to end this run as a bad guy, as
Right.
the heel.
Yeah.
And then of course, and isn't it with Cody? He's supposed. When we talk about Roman Reigns is going to be leaving. Cody's in that Street Fighter movie too, so
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to be taking a break, so that way he gets his win versus John Cena back, but then Seth cashes
Mm-hmm.
in and gets that, and then you have the whole
Yeah.
deal with what's going on with Gunther and all that. And that's another thing we've seen rumors that Gunther and Cena. That's how it's going to
Yeah.
close out. Because then with
Yeah.
John, I guess you can say, well, I got to go get the World Heavyweight Championship since I
Yeah.
just lost this one.
See, doesn't that solve everything? You're right, because it's like if Rollins is the undisputed champion and Gunther is the world heavyweight champion, you're solving your issues of if Cody's away, Reigns is away, Cena's away, because Cena doesn't have that many matches left, and you're going to take Cena out of that fold. And that's why I think the challenge is here. You want to get out of this knowing that you're not necessarily tying a story into John Cena other than John Cena himself. Like, you're not tying Cena to Cody coming out of this because you're not going to have a third match, I wouldn't think. You don't necessarily want to tie Cena to Rollins because Rollins got a lot of other things to deal with coming out of this if this is how it goes down. So you want Cena kind of in his own world to where it does open up to, like we said, maybe getting to Gunther in a couple months and whatever else happens between then, because he's still got, 2 or 3 more big matches in him. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like, the more I think about it, I had convinced myself of like the Rollins thing was going to be all night one, but I think this is the way you do it. If you're wanting the biggest impact, I don't know about putting Rollins on SmackDown though. I'm sorry to SmackDown, but like I think you'd rather keep Rollins on Raw. But you could do that, and I feel like it is something where, and I will say this though, if they do it this way, I'll tell you who this is a problem for, and it's not John Cena. I think it's a problem for Cody, because you then have Cody come back, and he's going up against Rollins in this group that everyone is still cheering. And so, is that what you want for Cody? Do you want to keep putting him in these positions? And maybe you just can't. You have no choice. But, like, Cody's going to find himself in a position here where he's getting booed. The heel could cash in on him. And then Cody's going to come back, and people are going to cheer the heel again against him. But maybe that's what sets up the big turn when it happens at some point in the future. I don't know.
And I guess I'll close it up on this. They've got to change Seth's music because
Yeah.
I mean, when he starts talking, they start booing him again. But
Yeah.
they're cheering. You're not supposed to be singing with the Hills theme song. You're supposed to be booing them. So I think that is something you might want to look into. Is changing Seth's entrance music, why he is supposed to be a heel. But we all know down the road, Paul Heyman is going to turn on him like he has done everybody else. So this weekend is going to be interesting. I can't wait to what's going to be the talking points coming out on Monday morning, because you're right. This is the second biggest event of the year. They want to fix what WrestleMania was. And your theory would be a great way to end it. So we'll see. And Blake, I told you we would go about 30. We went about 45 minutes here.
Come on, Phillip. Us talking wrestling. We could have went another hour if we needed to here. So
absolutely. And I appreciate you coming on. This is a lot of fun. We've done this a couple times on some other episodes on the other show that you've come on where we ended with some wrestling talk. So let's just go full on episode. But Blake, if people want to check out you with your wrestling content, where can they find it?
Yeah, you can find the wrestling stuff. Again, Wrestling Reaction, very basic, I know, but I'm not great at the name thing. So,
well, look at mine, Talkin Wrestling. I mean,
hey, I mean, we just come on, we don't want to put too much thought into it, but yeah, Wrestling Reaction. You can find it on YouTube. A big fist is the logo. I don't know where I came up with that. I think that was a Chat GPT thing or something, but yeah, you can find it find it there. See, look, this is how it works. So, again, I'll have my usual live streams after both nights of SummerSlam, so hop on in there, Phillip, if you're around, and anyone else. You can check out live thoughts right afterwards, and also be doing some, coverage over at the Takedown on SI over at Sports Illustrated. So yeah, check it out there, and like you said, should be a fun weekend with this first ever 2-night extravaganza.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. So, anyways, then better go tune in to wrestling reaction with Blake. And Blake, once again, I appreciate the time, and I look forward when we get to this again. Whatever we're talking about, whether it be college basketball, NFL, wrestling, whatever it is, it's always fun. But I appreciate you coming on.
You got it. Thanks, Phillip.
All right. Once again, thanks to Blake for coming on and doing that. Real quickly, if you didn't really kind of get my gist of my picks. So I think Gunther, Blake's kind of changed my mind. I was going to say CM Punk beats Gunther and then Steph cashes in. I think it's going to be Gunther winning and retaining. I think Roman and Jey win because Roman's going out the door. If Roman was staying, maybe he would lose out, but no. Randy Orton, Jelly Roll versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. I think McIntyre, Logan Paul win because I think Randy Orton RKO's Jelly Roll and he turns heel on Saturday. I think Sammy's going to beat Karrion Kross. I do think Jade Cargill is going to beat Tiffany, even though I don't think she's ready for it, but it helped Tiffany with her heel. The Judgment Day, Rodriguez and Perez versus Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. I think Flair and Bliss win that. I can't wait to see when they turn because Bliss has made Charlotte Flair likable. Again, people are cheering her. That's going to make him bigger when Bliss turns on her. Street fight for I had to go to that last. The TLC match, Y6 wins. I'm not really concerned about that. AJ Styles wins the AC title over Dom. Thinks Solo will retain against Fatu, but there's going to be some shenanigans in there. I said it. I think Becky Lynch wins because Bayley will interfere and turn heel. Triple threat. I think Naomi holds it, keeps it just because she just won the belt. And I'm going with Blake. I like that. I think that's maybe what happened. Cody Rhodes wins. John Cena turns babyface, and Seth Rollins may cash in. So I think Cody Rhodes wins either way, but that would be an interesting way to close it out. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking Wrestling. I appreciate it. Check it out on YouTube on the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel, and the podcast feed will be coming here very shortly. Hope everybody has a great time this weekend watching SummerSlam. I will try to bring one to you on Monday, recapping what I saw on this. But until next time, bye-bye.